Welcome to my workshop. In today's video I'm going to present you 3 tools that you can pick up on Banggood. Today I'm going to show you this square with some extra cool features for your tracks. This dial, thanks to which you can really tune up your table saw, and a pair of absolutely gorgeous clamps. First of all, I'm going to show you the clamps. I did get a pair because one clamp, well, what's the point of having just one? Okay, packaging, as you can see, nothing special. However, the clamp itself, well, we'll talk about it in a second. You do get an extra spare pad on the clamp. It's textured, 3mm thick rubber of some type. And on the back, you just peel that off and it's a double-sided tape on that. The make of these is Honduy. So these are designed to go to your MFT style tabletops. At the bottom of the clamp you do have a dog. As you can see, it does have this ability that it will force lock itself in the dog hole itself. And as you tighten this up, it will move the bottom part, locking it in place on your MFT style tabletop. Now everything is actually quite heavy, okay? It seems well made, however, the paint itself, I've been messing around with these by the way, so as you can see, you do get scratches on these already, okay? It is aluminium, so it's not going to rust on you. It is quite heavy, it is quite chunky. All those golden parts, that's obviously brass, okay? You can lock everything up. We're going to test this out in a second. The foot over here, it does swivel a bit, and overall it's a nice quality. Even the knob at the top, it does have a texture, so if you've got some gloves or very sweaty hands, you're not gonna slip on that, okay? So from that perspective, it is nice. So how does it work exactly? Well, whack this in just like that. It does have a wider radius over here, so it will stop at a certain point. And now with the knob at the top, you just do it up, and now that's nice and stable. Okay, you're not going to be able to pull this up. So how do you actually set up the height of this? Well, quite easily. You do have a crossbar just over here at the top, and another 2 from the other side, okay? And as you can see, on this rod here, you do have some cutouts inside for those bars to actually fit in. Let's say I want to clamp this down to my workbench. I'm going to take this as low as it goes, just like that. With that brass knob at the back, I'm just going to lock the position of the jaw itself. Okay, it's not going to go up, it's not going to go down. Make sure everything's nice and tight. And now simply just do up the pressure as much as it is required, and tell you what, that is absolutely rock solid. That's not going anywhere. Okay, so from that perspective, it is quite nice. Similar thing with a bigger board. Drop the jaw down, lock it in place, and now do up the pressure. And again, nice, tight and steady clamping pressure. Now add a second one for that extra stability, extra pressure. And tell you what, that's definitely not gonna go anywhere. And now simply what you can do to remove the pressure, just undo the brass knobs at the back and you can lift them up. No issues at all. Just like that. What's the maximum reach here? Well, let's have a look. We've got about just over 7 centimeters. Now, one thing I do have to mention is the fact that these are by far the best looking clamps I've had in my workshop. They are exceptionally gorgeous to look at, okay? They are fantastically made. You know, you got the brass elements and everything just looks so nice. However, that's not the point of a tool. Tool needs to be useful, needs to be working correctly, and it needs to add benefit to your workflow. And in this case, well, I very much doubt they will. Sure, they look very nice, they give a solid clamping pressure, to be fair. However, this type of clamp is just so slow to use, okay? First of all, you need to put it in your dog hole, do the knob at the top. Then you need to adjust the height of the jaw do it up again with a brass screw. And finally, with another screw, you need to add the pressure to the whole thing. Now, releasing the pressure is a little bit quicker because you can just undo the screw that's at the back, and the whole process just takes time. Now, if you are DIYer and you're not rushed with your project, then these will do absolutely fine, and it's a gorgeous thing to look at in your workshop. However, if you are running a business, or basically you don't have all the time in the world, these definitely will not be the right choice for you. Now, the next tool I'm going to show you actually should save you some time, should give you very, very accurate cuts, and should make your life a lot easier. And no, I'm not talking about the Evolution track saw, I'm talking about what's in this box. Mainly, it's the adjustable track square. This will be super handy if you do a lot of work with your track saw, with your plunge saw. This particular one is from Enjoy Wood, and one of the key features here, you can actually change the angles on it as well. But let's have a closer look at it. Now, the first thing I'm going to mention about this, the most important thing, is that this is compatible with the Festool, Makita and Triton guide rails, okay? It's actually not compatible with my Evolution track. So if you are using Evolution tracks, this is not going to work for you, at least as it is straight out of the box. Where it comes to the quality of this, is exactly what you would expect from Enjoy Wood, okay? There's no blemishes on the paint job itself. Everything is nicely fitted and everything seems to be very high quality. Now, as I said, you do have the option to change the angle going from 0 to 60 degrees with 5-degree increments, but also you do have an extra stop at 22.5 degrees as well, okay? And you do have positive stops. The way you change the angle is super simple. You just need to undo this knob over here, then pull this lever away, and then you can freely change the angle, okay? And that pin there, as you move it, it will lock into place, and as you do this up, the whole degree is locked into place and it's not going to move or shift on you as you are making the cut. On top of it, it does have this nice support, that lip over here, so you're going to have your track on this side and then you're going to have the lip from the other side, and that helps to stabilize everything up for you. On top of it, well, actually you do have a full-on handle just over here or on this side, whichever you want to grab. But how do you actually attach this to your rail, to your track? Well, you do have those two bars over here and they will be squaring everything up for you, the rail itself, okay? This one will actually go inside of these slots over here, okay? So you just slide it in like you would with your clamp. Just like so. And this bar here will be acting as a straight guide, as a straight fence for the whole rail itself, okay? However, you do need this clamp to actually lock the rail in place and pull it against that bar. And with the Evolution tracks, well, it's too wide, okay? That is too wide over here. With the, for example, the Festool tracks, you do have an opening here and it's like a T-track from the top, and then that pulls it and locks it in place. But hey, this clamp, well, it's held by two screws, so I can undo that and replace it with something that will allow me to actually clamp this track down. So from that perspective, it's not an issue. I'm going to come up with something so I can actually use this with my Evolution track. However, for the purpose of today's video, I'm just going to leave it as is, okay? I'm not going to do anything with it, as, to be fair, there is no side-to-side movement at all. Those bars are actually spaced accurately enough that I can use this track and this square. And the way you use it, super simple. Just rest the track with the square on top of the material, and that's it. You are done. However, I don't really trust any tool straight out of the box. So let's see how square this actually is. So let's have a look at this board. I think that should be a beautiful 90 degrees over here. I've got my angle finder. I'm just gonna zero it out. Okay, as you can see, that's 0. And let's have a look what degree we've got over here. And there you go, almost perfect 90. Okay, and there we go. If I put it against the piece of melamine board, we've got a perfect 90. So now I'm going to use this jig, make a cut, and see if we still got that perfect 90 edge. Well, we managed to get 89.9. That's not too bad. If I'm putting a bit of pressure on it against the melamine board, it remains the same, 89.9. So that's not too bad straight out of the box. On top of it, you have to remember that this track is really not compatible with this square, and it's not clamped down correctly in place as well. And we still managed to get very good results. But how about in a case where this is not square? Okay, there is a bit of discrepancy. Well, with this you can amend that very, very easily. As you undo both of the screws, you actually are able to shift this few millimeters here and there, okay, and that will enable you to square this jig out with no issues at all. However, this jig does have another very important feature. As I mentioned before, you can actually change the angle. So I'm going to undo it there, and let's shift it, let's say, to 15 degrees. The pin has been locked in place. I'm just going to secure it in place like so, and there you go. Our 15-degree mark is there, and we can make the cut. And there you have it. We've got a perfect angled cut with no issues at all. You can change the angles very, very easily and very quickly to suit your particular needs for your project. If you are using your plunge saws a lot, or that's your main tool to actually break down timber or sheet goods, then a square like this is definitely a fantastic option. Nice, accurate. You can make it accurate yourself as well. If it's out of alignment, it's easy to do. Plus, you do have the ability to actually change the angles as well. And as I said, they go right up to 60 degrees with 5-degree increments. Now, unfortunately, out of the box, this will only fit Festool, Triton and Makita rails. Okay, as you've seen with the Evolution rail, for example, well, I would have to change that clamp to something else, which I will do, as I do want to use it with my tracks. So yeah, very, very handy and could be very helpful in your workshop. And the final tool I want to present you today will allow you to absolutely fine-tune your table saw. However, you can use it with different tools as well, aligning fences on your router tables and many more. And the tool in question is the table saw dial indicator. You do actually get a very nice, easy to follow, quick setup guide for this. You do have a key and the main tool itself. The company behind this is Enjoy Wood again, so the overall feel and quality is actually very, very good. Now you do have imperial and metric, okay, depending on what you want to use. So you got clear indication of where you are, nice labeling on that, white on black, easy to read, no issues with that. On the reverse, you do have this guide bar that will fit your mitre slot there. And just to give you an indication, the size of that, that's 19 millimeters. And on top of it, not sure if you can see that, you do have some bearing balls in there. Okay, that's what it seems to be. So basically you can move this a lot easier in your mitre slot, okay? And they do have a bit of flex in them, so it's easier to actually install this. Now, as I said, this will fit any standard size mitre slots. It will not fit the Rage 5S correctly, okay? You will have a bit of slack in it. However, you can disassemble this. For example, if you don't have a standard mitre slot, you can disassemble that and add your own runner that will fit exactly your mitre slot that you have, for example, on your table saw or any other tool you want to use this for. Now with this indicator you can check if the mitre slot is parallel to the blade itself. You can check if the blade is flat, if it does have any inconsistencies, and you can also check if the arbor has got any run out. So first of all, let's just install our gauge just like so, so it slides into your mitre slot and there is no wobble, there's no movement at all. Now as you unlock this, you can shift the gauge itself, okay, depending on how far your mitre slot is away from your blade, or if you're measuring anything else that's a little bit further on. So the scale is from 0 right up to 110 millimeters. So you do have a fair bit of movement available. And on top of it, not sure if you can see that, it does have a support over there, okay? So it's not going to lean over. It does have a support that's flush with the whole body, and that's very important to get accurate readings. For me, I'm just going to set it up at 0 and lock it in place. Now to measure if the mitre slot is parallel to the blade, what you need to do is to actually select one single point on your blade, okay? So I'm just going to move the gauge itself. I'm going to mark it up so I know where I am with a marker, okay? So that's my spot. And now what you need to do, you need to zero the gauge out, okay? So you do have a screw over here, you just undo that and shift the top ring until the gauge, the indicator, marries up the 0 point. And then lock it in place, okay? And the gauge itself goes both ways, okay? So you got in black 10, 20, 30 and so on, and in red goes the other way around, okay? 10, 20 and 30. So regardless which way the inconsistency is going to be, you're going to know exactly. You also do have this lever here that pulls our gauge back, okay? Now as you are doing this, make sure your table saw is disconnected and the blade is right to the top, okay? Table saw disconnected, remember that. So I'm gonna pull this lever, so I'm moving the pin and I'm shifting the whole thing to the other side. Remember, we did mark the blade and we need to meet that on the other side. And now I'm just gonna release the dial, okay? So it did come in contact with the blade. The result here is 0.06 millimeter. However, with this knowledge, you can now dial in the tracking of your blade with no issues at all. And with the Evolution table saw, it's actually quite easy to do. So I'm going to try to reduce that amount even further. However, don't expect to be at 0, okay? It's hardly going to be possible. Maybe in top tier table saws you will be able to achieve that. Some margin of error will always happen. Of course, if you're going to have 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters tracking incorrectly, then that is a lot and you need to look at it. So as I'm adjusting the tracking, I can actually look at the dial, making sure everything is nice and accurate. However, as I do change the tracking at the back of the blade, the front may change as well. So you may need to do this a couple of times until you dial in your setup fully. So again, I'm going to shift everything to the front. Gonna drop the pin. Now I'm just gonna zero it out again. And I'm gonna shift it back. So let's release the pin. And as you can see, we actually went the other way to the left, okay? So the tracking went a little bit too far. And the result is something about 0.02 millimeter. And I think that's very good. And I'm gonna stick with that. And as I can see with device like this, you can really dial in your tools to make sure, hey, you're operating safely, you are preventing potential kickback and material lock between the fence, as now everything marries up together correctly. And most importantly, you will be able to produce fantastic, perfect cuts every single time, even on a budget job site saw like the Evolution 255 TBLX. However, you can use this in many other scenarios and applications. This is just one of the examples I wanted to show you, and tell you what, this is exactly what I was missing in my workshop, and I'm super happy that I finally got it and I can dial in my tools. Now, I do have a bit of information for you. If you are watching this video in 2025 before the 29th of April, these items will be discounted for the Easter discount event on Banggood, and I may have some additional discount codes for them as well. So check out the links down below in the description of this video to see if you can actually get any of these at a very nice competitive price as well. So yeah, check those links out and maybe you'll get yourself a fantastic bargain. And there you have it. That's the 3 tools I wanted to share with you. If you are using your track saws or your plunge saws a lot, this will definitely be a great helper for you. If you want to dial in your tools or actually up your woodworking game, well, this is a must. It doesn't break the bank and it's definitely a fantastic tool to have around in your workshop. When it comes to these clamps, well, they look nice, it's a nice to have, but definitely there are better options out there if you just want to have a nice and solid clamping solution. If you don't care and you do like to look at really nice, good looking tools, then pick them up as well. However, at this point, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to my Patreons for the ongoing support. Before you go, check out these 2 cool playlists, plenty of fantastic videos there, and I hope I'm going to see you in one of those videos. Till then, take care.